That's not normal. Yeah. Is it red? Green? I'm Riley Harvey for VCN, and this is the Thursday night PRT handicap race. Just set off on this challenging course, which takes us from the south to the north of the peninsula. And we are with Lou Gelling in the pack with the strong group of bots this evening at the moment, looking like, and we see a going to break up the road to some of the riders. Managed to snap the elastic there to this group of bots early on and made the break, so we'll jump forward to those riders. We've got in this crew, we've got Ian Hurst. Good to see Ian returning to the handicap race. We've got Chris Shackleton, Santos, Ben Lowe, Adams, and then we've got a rider, Vivek, Anton Wouters. Rider just flying off the front there. Dan Benson and Beer Run just taking it off the front there. A few of the regular riders in the event there, but nice to see a few new names as well. See the gaps opened up there. Quite a big gap now back to that group of bots, but we are on the flat section here now, which is where the bigger engines will have the benefit. When these hills start to impact, that's where the riders are gonna basically the riders with the lower weights, they're gonna get the advantage there when these hills start to kick in. Yeah, this course starts right down on the south coast on a town called Maratzion, and proceeds along the beach for taking a turn inland, which I think is the turn that we just had there, that hard right-hander, and starts leading us in and across. Going up to near Penzance before heading northwards to St. Ives, plastic area of the world. Anybody who hasn't been out there travelling, really is very picturesque, lovely area to go to. The MMF Santos leading the... Oh, it started just next to St. Michael's Mount. Just been informed on the chat there as Ben Lowe makes a launch off the front of this group, and Ben Lowe, he's beer on it in his sights there and is thinking he's going to take him, going to get to him. There's the south and north coast of Cornwall, fantastic area. Can't help but get some good fish out there, so that's something that I'm particularly keen on. MMF that we're following here just has a power outage here, momentary, could be a technical or a mechanical. Oh yeah, so we're just getting in on the chat there on the profile across the bottom of the screen there. You can see that we've got a number of red sections, probably three climbs really, you'd say, but then there are 2 ramps towards the finish line, and I've just been told that one of those ramps goes out to 26%. That's an absolute killer at the end of a race. Some love coming in for Chris Shackleton off the chat there, Andy Folks. Ben Lowe, who's off at the front there, we'll just zoom up and have a look in on Ben Lowe there. He's up second position. Ben's had some really good results in some really good performances in these PRT handicap races, but he's quite often come undone by either a physical or technical malfunction. So I've had a few occasions of chain drops and instances of the Amp Plus dropping out on him. But I've been told that he's recovering from a foot injury, that he sliced his foot in the pool. Very easy to do when your feet are damp and soft to injure your foot. And he's just been recovering from that. So maybe he's tapered, he's feeling nice and fit. And attacking this race. Santos and Lowe have gone clear here at the front, opening up a 47-meter gap on Beer Run, who was leading this race. They're just about to crest the first of these climbs and start on a short descent before heading into the more serious climb. Road just falls away here. Being told that the last climbs on this course are also hairpins, so not only do you have the issue of this 26% kicker, but the system will auto brake you, so you can't carry your momentum into them as well. But Ben Lowe there in the red, pulling gradually away from Santos on this more serious, more significant climb. Gonna just drop back and find Chris Shackleton now. Chris Shackleton, local lad, not too far away from me. He's just been travelling the Isle of Bute, meeting up with some of the other Team Lou members. And there he is, a member of Team Lou Racing. Chris and Andy not often be found on the Saturday and Sunday Team Lou rides, and the Team Lou rides now have been extended to Wednesdays as well. So fantastic rides for a little bit of chat, group camaraderie, and you can ride them at a number of different paces. You're not limited to a set pace dictated by the ride leader. Ian Hurst here. Ian's doing fantastically well. Not seen him for a little while in the events. Had some variable races, but doing pretty well at the moment. Up in 6th position. He has won a couple. Ian's one of the riders that benefits from the handicapping process, and I think he'd mind me saying he's a slightly older rider. Rides for Team 3R. I think the O is his classification, the Masters. Martins is riding today as well, down in 11th position. Martins, I don't know Martins personally, but he seems to be a lighter rider. Shackleton just suffering slightly on the length of this climb. Wooters, and then we are back with Udler and Martins. Oh, just mention him and he has a technical. That's very unfortunate for him. Martins is one of the lighter riders. He seems to have a bit of surging riding style, so he benefits from the handicap on the hills, but suffers somewhat on the descents and the flatter sections. Looking like Martins struggling to get back underway here. Looking through the box here, we've got Gale, PRT rider there. And kept company by the box. Nice, quite aggressive. 14% incline here. Keep our eyes open for Gilbert now. Gilbert quite often rides. We've got Martin still there. Oh, Bev's back racing with us as well. Good to see Bev. Bev's been absent for a few of the races. Bev, if you've not aware is the father of Will Usher. Will organises these races, so in a way Bev is partly responsible for all the pain that you feel in these races. And then we've got Presno following at the back of the group here. Presno putting in some quite impressive watts per kilogram, so I think perhaps they had a bit of a technical on the start line, or had a bit of an issue getting underway, or joined slightly late. Got run back forward to the front of the race as we see Santos now has burst away from Ben Lowe. Santos opening up a gap of 140 meters. So for those who aren't aware, we are live on a number of platforms: Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. We've got chat back into the VCN headquarters here, so any chat messages that you put down on any of those platforms will come back to us here at VCN, and we'll be able to respond, give a little bit of love out to your chosen rider and zoom in on them. Ben now being a little bit isolated. He's at 240 meters to Santos in front, but as we go around that corner and start on the descent there, hopefully with a little bit of quality descending here from Ben, applying the power in the right points and recovering when necessary. He'll be able to close down that gap somewhat. Benson, another rider that's been isolated here slightly. Vivek breaking away from Beer Run and Hurst. Be interesting to see if these three riders group back up and what sort of a difference that makes to closing the gap there. We see Beer Run, virtually no power apply from Beer Run there till he got to Vivek, and he just flew straight up to him and passed him. Vivek's had to put in a lot of power here to try and keep to the wheel of Beer Run, but even without effort, Beer Run is rolling away down this hill. Going into the flat section. Beer Run still distancing Vivek, and Ian Hurst not too far in the distance. And just moving forward here to see how this entering into this new climb is going to affect this dynamic between Santos and Lowe. The gaps not far off 100 meters between first, second and third here. Be interesting to see if these three riders come back together. You can see Benson just underneath the top right information there, closing the gap down on Ben Lowe. It's only down to 46 meters now. Santos still managing just on the edge of the screen. Santos there on the left hand side, very edge of the screen, just underneath the cadence marker there. Santos managing to keep a reasonable gap up to Ben Lowe, but Ben Lowe and Dan Benson, I don't know if they're on the Discord together chatting. Be very interesting to see if these two riders grouped up and work together to reel in Santos. As another point for those riders who are new to this, the PRT handicap race does have a very good Discord channel, very well attended, and quite often all you can hear is huffing, panting and swearing, but it's worth joining in just to know that you're not the only person suffering on these really aggressive courses. course, the outdoor season is fully underway for many of us now in the Northern Hemisphere. We're experiencing some occasional days of decent weather, but a little bit off this week, so I'm sure there'll be more turning to the indoor option to ensure that they get the training in that they need. It's beer run now. It's closing in slightly on Benson and Low. Go back here, and now I can see Benson very close to the wheel of Low there. Gradient's at 6.4% at the moment. Towards the top of the hill there, you can see Santos in the distance. Benson's still not getting any drafting benefit from the wheel of Low yet. On these climbs, we're going to have to get much closer to start receiving any drafting benefit, so he needs to stay within himself while he's making the catch. Doesn't want to blow too much because there won't be any rest for him whilst we're still going uphill. 7.7% gradient now. Keep your eyes on the top left hand corner. You can see the raw power that Benson's putting out there. He's up at 315 watts. And then any moment now you'll start seeing a green figure appear underneath that power line. Will be the drafting benefit, the virtual watts that Benson's beginning to receive from the wheel of Ben Low. There we go. 3 watts now. On that corner, breaks that watt saving up, but we get back into that watt saving pocket. Ben Low's just accelerating slightly here, making it difficult for Benson to keep in that pocket. Still at 6.1% and quite a lot of climbing left to go on this on this second section of climbing. Small respite in the middle, and it goes uphill again. Vivek has nearly made the catch to this little group as well. Vivek there now, a gap only of 10 meters to Benson's wheel. Vivek's benefiting from that drafting saving. 10 watts. Trying to regulate his power. You can see his power numbers in the top left hand corner now have turned red. This means that Vivek is just almost bouncing off the back wheel of Benson there. He just puts in a little bit more power to go to the side. Low just eases back. Vivek go past. Vivek and Benson. PRT team of 2 on the wheel of Vivek here. Sorry, Low and Benson, PRT team of 2 on the wheel of Vivek. Let's see if they use Vivek to catch up to Santos now, but Santos doing really well here, opening up the lead at 340 meters. Those who aren't aware, the handicap race is set up based upon FTP, and the idea is that the riders all adjust the weight in game in order to create a level playing field that basically all the same riders are working towards the same watts per kilogram, 3.2 watts per kilogram. And in order to achieve this, you take your recent FTP, divide it by 3.2, and that gives you your weight in kilograms to enter in the game. It makes it harder for the elite riders on the climbs, such as this, and makes it easier for some of the slightly weaker riders, some of the less frequent riders, to compete with those more elite riders. And Ian Hurst now riding up at 3.9 watts per kilogram on his Buffalo bike. Just trying to close down the gap on these group of 5 up in front, or group of 4 with the lone leader out in front. MF, a slight technical earlier on and lost power for a moment. Just caused him all sorts of trouble with that lead group. And with Budla and Anton Wouters, 8th and 9th position. Chris Shackleton in 10th. Adams in 11th, and then with Luke Elling and Davidson in 12th and 13th. Although Davidson just sprinted past Luke Elling there. Lou's a ferocious rider on the hills. Been absent for a few of the PRT handicap races, but it's good to see her back and in the efforts. Some bots, we're going to drop back, count our real riders within this group of bots. And we've hi Crack. Gale. Fresno, who's made good time since he started off quite far back in the pack. And there's Martins. I'm glad to see he restarted it. He was up with the lead group for a while but had a technical. And we've Bev. Back up to the front group, we've got Santos, who's cracking on this descent now, heading towards the third climb. Santos with a gap of 800 meters over Vivek. In second position. Match a gap away from Beerun. Beerun, the way he was descending earlier on, trying to figure out the way of Beerun, but I think they must have quite a significant weight in this race. We're watching Benson here attacking Bierun once again. Bierun also really doing some strong riding here. Vivek up the road. Just keeping me in mind of who you would expect to win the combativity award. So there is a podium for this race, obviously. But the main award, the main thing from this race is the combativity award. So we always look forward to hearing who you think's raced the most aggressively, who's been the most dynamic rider, or who you've seen that's really just gone all out to win this race. Left it all on the road. Ben Lowe just been distanced now. Really powerful looking earlier on in the race. Has been recovering from an injury, so perhaps just slightly out of shape. Felt good at the beginning, just couldn't maintain that maybe. Was being reeled in by the imposing figure of Ian Hurst on his Buffalo bike there. Again, for those new to the platform, haven't heard me talk about it before, the Buffalo bike is a bike that was added into the platform this year by RGT. RGT's main charity, the one that they support pretty much all the way through everything that they do, is the World Bicycle Relief Charity, and they provide Buffalo bikes into areas where they might struggle with transportation, and it's a very cost-effective, reliable and easily usable piece of transport. Really revolutionizes the areas where they put these bikes into. Anyway, this year in January, every January they've been doing an event to promote World Bicycle Relief and Buffalo bikes, and this year if you completed an Everesting or the height of Everesting climbing during the month of January, and they rewarded you with a Buffalo bike to ride within the game. So if you see these within the game, then that person's made a great deal of effort on the platform and raised awareness for World Bicycle Relief every time they're out riding. And just as I was waffling on, MF has come flying past these two. Voodler has jumped onto his wheel, and Ian probably just at the limit there. He's slightly eased off. Well, not slightly eased off, he's not been able to go with that move as Voodler is sticking to MMF's wheel, and Ben Lowe has just managed to get over the crest of this climb and open up some distance on these two guys. MMF kicks. Voodler's responding to it though. Voodler, if you can just get a little bit closer. But MMF is really trying to snap the elastic here for Voodler. And it looks like he's succeeded. Really pressed to get back into this drafting pocket. See that? Now Voodler's had to ease back. Heart rate's gone up, and MMF managed to maintain that distance. It's slightly pulling away, and see the MMF will be just going down a steeper descent in a second and flying away. Good racing by MMF there. Ian Hurst already distanced by these two by nearly 200 meters, which, you know, they only pushed on slightly. MMF, good move from him. Completely distancing Vula there. Putting Vula into the red briefly as well while he tried to recover. MMF now in 6th position. Ben Lowe in 5th. MMF, some good racing to close him down. Dan Benson, 4th position. Beerun's just managed to break away, open up a 100-meter gap. Beerun 3rd. 150 meters to Vivek. That gap will probably close somewhat. We're on a descent now. The gaps are a little bit difficult to call when you're descending like this sort of speed. 62.9 kilometers per hour at the moment. Vivek. 4.3 kilometers remaining for Vivek. Santos is just approaching these two very tricky climbs. We're up at 9% now for Santos. But Santos, the clear winner at the moment. The races do go through doping control at the end of these races. Will goes through the results and has a look at how everyone's performed compared to this 3.2 watt per kilogram baseline, and some of the riders do get deleted as we go. 23.3% into that curve. Oh, absolutely punishing there. It's not over yet. 21.8. To make a mental note of this. I do go riding in this area sometimes, so make sure I make a mental note not to hit those climbs. The amount of times around the coastline of Cornwall that I've rode to a port to have a little break and a sit down, and then realised that I've rode down a stupidly steep incline and I've got to go around and back up again. 22.7, 23.5%, and into that hard bend that scrubs all your speed away. And Santos now pushing up 395 watts, 6 watts per kilogram to get up this climb. But Santos now nearing the top of this climb. We're going to go back though, because the race is more interesting in the back with Beerun and Vivek. Santos is home free and clear, but Beerun, Vivek and Benson now. Beerun, Vivek, Benson just behind. Beerun 22.1% there. Vivek hitting that same climb. Now this could come down to which rider has selected the right gear at the right time here and really able to continue spinning. Beerun's cadence down at 41 there. Vivek spinning those wheels a bit more freely. Cadence at 63. Heart rate's up there at 178 though. They're really pushing on. But they've closed down that gap to Beerun. Keeping the power on over the top. Beerun's had to ease off slightly there. Vivek marks him. Vivek's watching him and goes. Beerun returns. Benson's eased right off the power there. As you see, Beerun, Vivek into this second climb. Beerun comes to a dead stop there. Beerun pushing. And Vivek changed gear, kicks on again. Beerun 45 cadence, Vivek 67. Just spinning those pedals, dancing a little bit more lightly up that climb, and it is reaping its rewards as he distanced Beerun. Heart rate 178. There's flat running to this finish line. Fake Still on the power. Benson coming back there on Beer Run. Beer Run 3.6 watts per kilogram. Will's predicting a good fight between Dan Benson and Beer Run in this final running as Vivek comes to the crest with a gap of only 15 meters. We'll see how that increases as he starts descending. Beer Run has been descending like a brick, so I think he's going to quickly recover that gap onto Vivek. Bendy roads here now. Vivek pushes. Beer Run no power at all here. See how this gap closes down. Beer Run's completely shut it off there. And he's just closing in on Vivek. Rapidly. Hits him. Passes him. Vivek on the power. Getting into that slip. Benson now. Looking ominous as we're into the last 1.5 kilometers. Benson's powering out of every corner now, trying to close this gap. As Beer Run pushes on, Vivek's responding. Santos not getting any coverage here, unfortunately. Santos is the winner of this race, but Beer Run, Vivek and Benson is where the interest is. Vivek saving 19-20 watts there in the wheel of Beer Run. Through to take a turn. He's right off on the power underneath the Flamme Rouge. Little incline here. There's Benson. Boom! Benson's back in the mix. And Benson's not eased up for that climb. Vivek, Beer and Benson. Vivek once again dances up the climb. Opens up a small gap on Beer Run. 800 meters remaining and a gap of 43 meters. Beer Run managing to distance Benson slightly. Vivek keeps working. 700 meters. Another hairpin. Beer Run not able to respond. Vivek keeping on the power. Gap of 27 meters. 35, 41. 500 meters left to go. Hairpin again. Beer Run and Benson tangling. Vivek opens up. Early bit of effort there. Another corner. Again, these bends keep coming. 190 meters. 130 meters. Vivek's opening up a sprint here now. Beer Run and Benson tangle together. Benson takes lead from Beer Run there. Vivek coming through in second position. Benson just manages to take it from Beer Run. Wow. Ben Lowe's coming through in fifth position now. It's an exhilarating finish. Just getting it through on race control that it's looking like Santos will be disqualified, hitting 5.5 watts per kilogram and only turning his power bar amber. At those sort of powers, his power bar should have been hitting red. Ben Lowe is coming through in fifth position here. He's done well to hold off rampaging MMF, who had an earlier power outage which led to dropping in positions, but Ben Lowe doing well to keep him at bay. Ben pushed on really well early on in the race, but then faded slightly. Anyone who's on the Facebook page for VCN, there's an interesting article on the moment by the Zomunique, Christopher Schwenker, who talks about the amount of carbohydrates that virtual cyclists take on before and during events, and basically how it's not enough. On longer events, certainly we should be taking more carbohydrates on in advance and fueling more thoroughly during the events. Ben comes over in 5th and MMF comes over in 6th. I encourage you to head over to the VCN, the V Cycling News Facebook page, and check out the Zomunique and the articles there. And you can also check out, while you're there, some of the other streams that we've got running. We run a number of streams through the week. We do cover the PRT handicap race regularly, and there's some fantastic racing that takes place on these events. As Voodler comes over in 7th position. Ian Hurst, fantastic race from Ian tonight. First time on the event for a little while, and he's coming over in 8th position. I'll wait for the camera. Ian quite often has the stream running on in the background. Good evening, Ian. Good to see you back. I will just comment in there that the whole race is really the last 3 kilometers. It doesn't look as bad because the rest of the profile is more significant, but those last climbs are really painful. Wall of attrition, you've completed those bigger climbs, thinking those smaller climbs are not going to be very big. Anton Wouters giving a wave to the camera there. Hi Anton, good to see you racing again. Comes over in 9th position, although we believe that'll be 8th after disqualification. Davidson, oh no, Davidson's come to a stop. Davidson just dropped back a position there to 11th, and Adams coming past. But Adams won't be complaining. So they've gained a position. Adams 10th on the road, as we believe 9th in the actual standings. Coming through. Davidson still not showing power there, unfortunately. Davidson's, whether they've had to stop for a reason or have had a technical, not sure. As Adams comes through, 630 meters remaining. Hairpins in this last section. Adams coming in there to that hairpin. If you keep an eye on the top left hand corner, and Adams pushing out 500 watts there, you'll see their power turn red. They come around some of these sharp corners. 530 watts, 480 watts there. Took on a racing line that corner. We'll look at one of the other riders coming through there. As we see Chris Shackleton there, his power turn red coming around that corner. Shackleton 340 watts there, 150 meters to the finish line. Being chased down by Lou Gelling, but it's a little bit too late with that final burst there from Lou. Over in 12th position. And Davidson, good to see they're back underway, and the adrenaline of that outage is giving them some extra power as they come through in 13th position. They'll have been gutted to have lost about 3 positions there. The bots coming through now. Bots put in to keep some of the races company. Pace some of the riders back, and also those who have technicals. They've got somebody to ride with. see Presno now. Presno with 2.4 kilometers remaining and just enjoying these last 2 climbs. I'll be really thankful of Will choosing this course. Presno's done really well to come back to this position from they started at the back of the course. Done really well. As I say, don't forget to vote for your most combative rider you've seen being the most aggressive. Presno, 2.1 kilometers remaining. So Ben Lowe just firing through some details on the WhatsApp, and they've got the highest 20-minute heart rate. Second highest 5-minute heart rate, second highest 1-minute heart rate, and third highest 5-second heart rate. So they obviously were smashing it on that event. Great to see this racing going on. Now comes through 1.4 kilometers, 445 meters climbing. Ben's just commented, has mentioned his mishaps and issues earlier on in the stream. But Ben's just commenting that his turbo came loose. I'm not sure if it was true or whether that's just an excuse, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did. I know it's a common thing that we forget to check the skewers and our turbos as frequently as we should, and quite a few people I know of that the turbo has been rocky, a little bit rockier than they expected it to be. Meters remaining. Presno crosses that line. Heart rate up at 169. As I say, if you look when we're coming past these hairpins, we'll do some aerial view of this. You'll see Presno's power in the top left hand corner turning red. So on these sharp corners, power is 160-ish just now. Took that one on a racing line. Quite an aggressive one coming up here now. You can see his power has been reduced there, top left hand corner. Well, his power hasn't been reduced, that's my misspeaking. His power's turned red. What actually happens is his speed is reduced by the game. We can't take corners at 30-40 kilometers per hour when they're a sharp corner, so the game does adjust your speed, and it indicates that by showing your power going red that you're producing watts that are unused. As Presno comes over the line in a time of just over 55 minutes. And Gale here now. Coming through. 90 meters remaining. Comes over the line. 55 minutes, 58. And Martins, who had an unfortunate power outage, they'd lost power for quite some time earlier on in the race. Good to see that they've recovered from that and continuing on finish. No, it's sometimes I've had power outages and just decided to call it quits for the day, but it's nice to see that Martins is got the willpower to continue and push on to finish the race with only 140 meters remaining now. And Martin's there across the line. Back with Bevelshire. Bev now ruining the day that he showed Will a bicycle coming up these climbs. Really aggressive, up at 21.8%. Brief, enjoyable descent for getting slowed and then whacked straight into a 23.5% gradient. Hunting for the gears, trying to find out the tempo that's going to suit this climb. And just pushing and pushing and pushing. There is an intensity slider on RGT. It is set to 100%. So normally 100% means that the hill's 23.5% gradient would feel like a 23.5% gradient. It should equate through your turbo trainer to the same feeling. We don't all ride the same bike on our turbo trainers that we would ride on these climbs in real life. So what you can do is use the intensity slider to adjust the intensity of these climbs, and effectively what it does is it gives you a bigger rear cog. Reduce it down, it means that you can climb these climbs more easily, spin a bit more, and not have the fear of your knees exploding consistently. It doesn't mean that you have to use any less power. It isn't cheating. You use the same amount of power, it's just measured out more equally, more controllably. and you know, it can be a sensible thing to do. If you, on my bike, got a 28 on the rear. If I was climbing hills like this, really ideally I'd like a 32 on the rear. So you know, I adjust the slider intensity down to maybe about 80. I feel that gives me the same sort of gearing ratios